Dear friends, glad to meet you all on Feygin Live. It is 2 minutes past 9 on Thursday, the 2nd of June. We're doing another stream. It is day 99 of this war. We have Olexiy Arestovych with us, and glad to see Olexiy, likewise. We have about 120,000 people watching us live, which is quite a bit, but we still appreciate any help. So if you can share the links to your social media, share it with your friends, perhaps send it by messenger, and make your relatives or girlfriends, boyfriends to watch it, and subscribe to our channel, to Alexei's channel as well. If you are watching it in English, subscribe to the Privateer Station. Very important to leave your like. That's how this video is being displayed to more viewers. Alright, Olexiy, day 99. Any good news today? Probably the most interesting event today was Severodonetsk. We remember that our Russian comrades announced that the city has fallen and they got it. Today in the morning, Ukrainian forces did the counter-strike, and we captured a few streets back, we got a few prisoners of war, and we pushed them back. And our offensive, counter-offensive, was done in a way that causes heavy casualties, and they have to withdraw, have to retreat. Yeah, we've seen some comments that it was a trap. It was a trap, yes. It was a very well-planned trap. Again, I need to say right away that it doesn't mean that Russians will not capture that city, or that will recapture it completely back, but it was a tactical move, a serious tactical move, that required a lot of patience and skill and steel nerves. And we basically let Russian troops enter the city, and we cut them in a way that they started to suffer heavy casualties, so they basically had to reinforce the city, and according to our radio intercept, they were resupplying and sending more troops to the area in order to try to hold the city. So the city that they just announced they got, they were trying to hold on to it. And they basically accumulated a little more troops to try to advance further in Severodonetsk. They got another 20 to 30%, and they were regrouping there and gathered more reserves, and that's when we hit them. We basically caught them with pants down, and they suffered really heavy casualties. So we'll see what our command will play there. I don't know all details, I'm just observing what's happening. And I do need to cool down the hotheads that we're not taking the city back. It just means that we have done a very successful tactical maneuver that caused Russian side to suffer heavy casualties in that city. Our command keeps demonstrating high expertise in pretty sophisticated military operations, and our fighters display amazing strength because they are achieving these goals under heavy Russian fire as well. Russia still has more artillery and more air power in that area, but we are doing our operations rather successfully. Pull them in, let them come in, and hit them in the most vulnerable moment, at the moment right before they launched, or were ready to launch their offensive. If to describe it in simple words, the troops are loading ammo, fresh troops got in, and they're getting the show around, familiarizing themselves with the maps, where to go, where our troops were not our troops. And this art is to pick the right moment when they really are helpless or not expecting any engagement. And this is beautiful from the military standpoint. It actually was beautiful. Is it possible to gauge or estimate the amount of casualties they suffered? This is still difficult because one would need exact data about the street fights, and maybe a day or two after analyzing some of the radio intercepts, perhaps interviews with prisoners, we'll be able to give a better picture. Right now, I would not go for announcement any casualties. Why I'm asking because Kartapolov, another Russian clown from the Ministry of Defense, stated today that Russian troops are not even dying on this war. How does he mean? Oh, they're just learned and they're so professional that they don't suffer any casualties. And I have to say, in Russia, they're actually trusting it or eating it. I don't know how, but this is not only direct lie, but it's also somehow a war where people do not even die. It is special operation, so nobody dies. Mark, special operation is over long time ago. These days, their daily casualties are about 300 to 400 troops dead. So all these stories that they don't suffer any casualties, at least not true, because yes, they're not suffering 1,000 plus casualties daily, but it's still about 300 a day. And also that is due to a very poor medical support they have on the front line, because normally there would be the number of dead would be 3 times smaller than the number of wounded, but on the Russian side, sometimes the number of dead is higher than the number of wounded recovered from the battlefield. And this is difficult to withdraw them, to extract them from the front, and they need to wait for the night to come down or some cover to take people out from the front lines and bring them to the hospital. And probably under heavy fire, there is not much chance of people surviving. Well, there is simple laws of military casualties. Heavily wounded person in 40 minutes is dead. Medium level of probably first half an hour, first hour. If he doesn't get help, he turns into a heavily wounded. And remember, in Afghanistan, they used to have their delivery time from battlefield to the hospital was anywhere between 6 to 12 hours, so casualties were pretty sky high. And modern hospitals, they actually save up to 90-95% of people who get there. Problem is delivering there on time. And I'm just wanted to say that there is no that proportion 1 to 3, because normally that would be the case, but right now with the poor medical service, they actually, a lot of them are dying. And if you're concerned, if you have relatives being thrown on this front, you can call the hotline of our Ministry of Defense and look for their names. If we are aware, we'll share the data. Let's take a look at Severodonetsk. With all that story, attempt to take Severodonetsk, attempt to take Liman, Ozernoye, and get to the road on Bakhmut. If Ukrainian forces counterattack and take Kamyshvacha, if Russian troops were trying to advance and get to the road, they came close, about 2 kilometers away from it. But what could stop you from walking the remaining 2 kilometers, 2 miles to the road? I would suspect probably the density of fire. That's correct, because otherwise you would have crawled there and stuck the flag in it. But yeah, the intensity of fire is pretty serious. And at the same time, there are no casualties, right? So, Russian people might try to not believe that number. Well, that's what I wanted to say. We should tell them that they need to call their special line Ukrainian Ministry of Defense is trying to accumulate and share the data about the victims and casualties that they find. All right, the next one is Kherson. We hear some optimistic calls from that area. I need to cool down some hotheads in this too. We have some news. They're generally good, but they're not too crazy. We didn't cut the Russian troops in halves there. We didn't advance to Dnieper. We did not take Kherson. But what we've done, we attacked Russians right when they were getting ready to make another operative maneuver. They had anti-air systems, they had more troops getting ready for advance, and their trouble is they're not good at coordinating. They're asking them to be aggressive, but they don't really supply them with communication lines to each other. They had the same thing in Kiev, where two groups really did not coordinate at all. So over there, they were preparing their advancement, probably to get to Kherson, Nikolaev area, and our troops caught them pants down again. I wouldn't say right before the offensive, the night before the offensive, but very close to it. And our troops hit them on 3 sides. We crossed the river in 3 spots. We got to their side. We held onto it for a bit. Then people were expecting our troops to advance and wreak havoc, but that's not how it works when you don't have full power, capacity, or support from the West on the field yet. So that's what happened there. If you remember the movie Battalions Request Fire, mid-20th century Soviet era movie, that talks about the detachments that crossed the river and tried to hold on the other bank. That's what we're trying to do there too. We crossed the river, we set the fortifications, we destroyed their motorized brigade basically completely, down to 0 left. Several dozens of equipment, at least 200 dead personnel. And they were trying to get our troops out of those fortifications that they built on the newly captured bank. Now imagine our troops back up and go back to the previous location. What happens? So they crossed the river, they defeated the local detachments of Russian side, and now they had to regroup, get together, get new reinforcements, train them, explain things to them, get more equipment. And guess why we're doing it? Because every day that we win leads to us getting another day of weight down and getting closer to the Western armaments arrival on the front. So okay, let's continue to talk about more things here. No, Mark, I want to put a point on this, that it was very precise action from our military. A classic maneuver, a classic attack right before the enemy's offensive that disabled their capability to advance for a noticeable period. So I want to say that our troops actually did learn and did grow their operative tactical mastery. One should send a lot of kudos to the commanders and the soldiers who pulled it off. They worked as a very well lubricated engine. Okay, we have about 300,000 watching us live. I do want to remind those people who are joining, please do not be shy. Do what you usually do. Subscribe and click the like button. Let's remind people who just got here that when you get a little upset that we are on your butt again about leaving the like to that video, and if you think, why does it matter? That's how YouTube algorithms work. 1 like is 10 new recommendations of that video to other people. So if you help us to up in the trend, there'll be more people who see it in different countries where they need to see it. A big chunk of it is citizens of Russian Federation that do need to see the events from the front. And now turning to the Russians, if you do want your friends and relatives to get the real data, and Russia does need that data in order to save itself, don't be shy, like us away, because one like is another 10 demos, 10 possible new viewers of that video. You are fighting for the future of your country. That's a simple way to do it. Holy words, nothing to add, nothing to subtract. Let's go to the next one. This starts to remind me our situation with Western allies and reinforcement. Reminds me of the roller coaster. They're giving us all, they're not giving us anything. So, what is the picture? Tell us more. What are we getting? When are we getting? With a carrot and stick, and yeah, let's go to the facts. Yesterday, Minister of Defense Olexiy Reznikov of Ukraine announced a news that we're waiting for a good surprise from Poland. So it did materialize that in addition to 18 crab howitzers, really good ones, I've been in one of them. It's a vehicle of the 21st century, very high quality. By the way, I did want to say that German tanks also have ACs in them. Imagine that. I sat in it, and it's amazing. And it's being run by joystick. People think in Russia that tank is driven by big levers. No, German tanks are driven by joysticks. So, very good vehicle. And we get the notice that Ministry of Ukraine is going to buy 60 of these howitzers. Now, it may take several months to produce them, but 60 howitzers of that type is a very serious support. Belgium also said that they'll sell or supply SAO M109 to Ukraine. It's an American system, similar to our Acacia. It's a 152 millimeter self-propelled 152 millimeter howitzer. Gvozdika and Akatsiya, equivalent Russian name for that. Sweden also announced about military help to Ukraine for 95 million euros. They have light anti-ship RBS-17 systems that is based on American Hellfire, which is a very accurate, very powerful missile. For the launch, they use one-time portable system, and they have a Swedish munition in it that can shoot both water and air targets. So a rather universal system that allows you to defend your beaches in a 10-mile radius. So any seaborne troopers or any attempts to storm the beach or land there will have tools to stop them. Sweden is also giving additional anti-tank stuff, probably Carl Gustaf, more high-caliber rifles, ammo. Britons are saying, yes, we almost got permission to supply you M270B1. This is a truck-based, and American giving wheel-based HIMARS. But Americans also telling that HIMARS are already in Europe. They've been sent there. They've sent 4 systems there already, which are designed for training. So we can train 20, 30, 50 people on each, and a big number of our specialists will learn how to use them. And then there'll be another quantity to fight the war. So how many are we talking about? I don't think there'll be less than one division, probably 2 or 3, so maybe up 30 something and 40. And I think finally the US ambassador in Ukraine said a very simple thing, which kind of put a nail in the Russian rhetoric lately, because she said Ukraine will be the side to define with what, how far, and at what target they'll be shooting. Ukraine will have full discretion of how to use their weapons and where to fire them. I want to say here that Russia is really pissed at Zelensky's words. And they also then followed up on his words when he said, well, not going to attack Russia. But you have to be a complete idiot to believe that Ukraine will never attack Russian territory. There is a war going, and you don't even need to comment that, but those people from the Russian ministries, they're dumbasses, and they need to realize that they did not capture or conquer Ukraine, so now they need to face the reality that they may get some ass whooping. And now there's their phrase that, oh, it's not us, it's not gonna fly real well. And at very least, there'll be a lot of things happening in Russia where, cigarette butts, igniting munitions depots, other explosions, trains, accidental derailments. And besides that, there may be more things happening. And I want to say here also about our perspectives on shooting at Russian territory. Frankly, we have so many things to attack, so many targets to attack with it here in Ukraine. So HIMARS and other systems will have targets up to their neck to attack on our land. Also, sanctions. The next set of sanctions is going forward. Hungary sent their protest about putting sanctions onto Patriarch Kirill in Russia, the head of Russian Orthodox Church. And the European Union did notion that they took in consideration Hungary's position on that. So this package includes also sanctions against Sberbank, their disconnection from SWIFT system. 90% of Russian oil will be cut off from supply. Talk more to Saudi Arabia, who was almost made a pariah after they killed a journalist, but today they're being looked at again as a supplier. Today, assistant of President Zelensky did turn to Arab audience, and he said, basically, very simplifying it, was, we'll supply bread, you guys will supply oil. And we need to say that these countries, these Arab countries, they are trying to compensate or save the oil market from turbulence when Russia is getting kicked out of it. They're also one of the biggest buyers of Ukraine food items. So there is another union here, budding union, that is very uncomfortable for Russian Federation. Actually, should correct that and say for Putin's Russia, because there is a difference between. I do draw a difference between Russia and Putin's regime. NATO is also reviewing their documents, and in the current statement they're getting ready to publish that Russia will be listed as the enemy, as an enemy state. In the previous document reviewed 10 years ago, Russia was considered to be a partner, but, under glorious leadership of Putin, Russia became an enemy. And according to the statement, there'll be another item worth of special attention is military cooperation between Russia and China, which basically is considered to be unacceptable or undesirable. So they're already targeting
Да,
that
да, но как уже
in
есть, как бы здесь
advance,
уже
and it's a
Россия
good politics,
достаточно давно
aiming
присутствует
at
уже
cutting
парламент,
off the tentacles of Russian
к сожалению,
leadership.
как государство, и народ в том числе.
And they
По итогам
also
словам
added
будет
additional
еще одна вещь, сообщение
personnel
тесное сотрудничество
sanctions.
Российской Федерации с Китаем.
And I know you like them.
Вот,
Oh,
что
yeah, I do.
представляется
And,
для НАТО и
there's
для,
always never enough for me.
ну, скажем так,
So they'll include some of the high ranking
ну,
Russian
допустим, Европы.
personas. I heard they added Zakharova, Roldugin,
Российская Федерация считалась партнером.
Mordashov's family.
Главным противником.
So, yeah,
Вот это
that
умелая,
story.
очень умелая
Finally,
да,
personnel sanctions are catching up to that, regardless how difficult it is, and different communication channels,
сегодня ввели дополнительные персональные санкции,
and possible respect of private property. The sanctions will still be applied. Oh, just got another news. In Kamyshevacha, Ukrainian forces destroyed a column of Russian troops. Basically blew them up in smithereens. We don't even know the count of victims.
То есть так догнали персонально. Как это не сложно? Как это не сложно?
And again, I feel I need to remind our viewers that Ukrainian side did not recapture Severodonetsk. We are working with it. We're finding ways to counterattack, to hold them, and to cause maximum casualties. That's to address the Russian troops that are not losing anybody on the battlefield. Right. Okay, we have 350,000 people watching us live. We hope that this number will just grow. We wanted to do an experiment. Listen, not for our self-perpetuation or patting on the back. We want to change the time for next week and maybe jump back at 10 p.m. to see if that is the best time for you guys who are watching us. So we'll try to be flexible, but we'll try to do our shows at 10 p.m. and see how well can you join. I can also tell you the following thing. That you, by coming to view us or not coming to view us, will show us a better time to do the show. If we attract more people at 9, we'll do it at 9. Works better for you guys, we'll do it at 10. So I have another question that I keep being asked. I'll try to aggregate it, but so the question is about the people who are moved from Mariupol and other cities onto Russian territory. They're basically kidnapped, right? We kind of discussed that. The Russian citizenship is being forced onto them. Russian laws require you to refuse Russian citizenship in order to not get it. So, not friendly. Now there is another problem that the kids and orphans whom they brought from Ukraine to Russia, they are suffering. They've moved them and they're distributing them to different families, and it'll be hard to trace them after. They're also lying about Mariupol. They're saying that no, it's not 25,000 dead. We evacuated a lot to Russia, and good luck finding who is where, because they're evacuating them to different cities throughout the whole country. It's difficult to say because the amount of dead in Mariupol is so big that corpse scent is permeating the air. It's hard to tell the actual deaths, but I think several dozen thousands of civilians who died. For sure, Russian command will try to hide the actual number of deceased, of their victims of their attack. They're already burning some bodies, and they're also burying them in joint unmarked graves, and they'll try to deceive everybody by telling that they're alive, they just move them to Siberia somewhere. And it's difficult because, yeah, we don't know the original amount of people living there at the moment of their invasion and how many were actually dead. So, personally, I've actually helped a few cases where some people were extradited or stolen into Russia, forced to go into Russia, and their families requested help to find them and bring them through other European countries. So we've done that. And we do have humanitarian efforts, teams that are trying to recover all the corpses and find their names and track the situation. In general, I read the number about 1.5 million of Ukrainians that has been moved onto Russian territory. Is it starting the first day of war? I would not know exactly, but it's basically the group that was forced, either by force to move to Russia, or when they were opening a corridor and offering just one way out of the settlement. Among the endless scrolls of data that I go through every day, I remember seeing that 1.5 million. That's a pretty solid number. Are there any other third parties representing Ukrainian interests in Russia? On the personal level, yes, there is some help from different countries which are helping, but it's really on the personal level. And let's not go deeply into that because we can break that very fragile setup that helps to save destinies and save people's lives. All right, the last thing I wanted to ask about the information, and that's Western press that has noticed that for 2 weeks nobody has seen Dvornikov. Any data in Ukraine that can support that? We don't have any support information about that guy. Same as we cannot support if Pushilin was wounded in the recent shelling. But that's basically the result of Russian side appointing people without military knowledge, military education onto their leading roles in the army. So it's just messy. It's hard to get details out of things. Can you also get some information about Putin's involvement in the operation? Because Western media continue to peddle the thing that he is doing it personally, the whole Ukraine campaign. Mark, we talked about that before. I know, I don't believe it too, but they keep bringing up the subject. So how do you see that Putin is managing every detachment, or that he is bent over the map and asking questions? Who is the commander of this? How is he personally? What are his command qualities? Does he like him or not for that position? And the latter, it could be the case, because he is not really managing the war fighting. He's just controlling the officers running it. And ultimately, Putin is a KGB guy. Military and KGB have always been at odds in Russia. So I can imagine him coming to the military setup and trying to dictate how to do the war. That'll be laughable. Yeah, I understand, but at the same time, Stalin back in the day did control too many things himself, and maybe Putin is doing the same, that he's trying to control things as much as he can to prevent the defeat. Control, not management. That's the thing. You can control who is performing it, you can control who is leading the troops, but you cannot control or do not control the actual daily routines. Yeah, good question would be to Russian FSB. What should be expected? What are the difficult parts of the operations? But I don't see him actually managing or working the operation.
Контроль и координация
One can expect everything from Russia at this point, but I just do not see
но это не
him
означает непосредственно исполнение и режиссуру спектакля. Поэтому
managing
надо
or
было присматриваться
organizing
очень,
all the
создать
detachments in the
там
warfare
эти
or war
детали
theater.
информации, там пинает ГРУ бывшее, а ныне ГУ. А ну давайте доложите, пинает ФСБ, ну-ка покажите,
And
куда.
there's another question I wanted to address. There is still some screams from Moscow, Kremlin, that
по карте
do not piss us off. We have nuclear weapons. So now we can see some of these statements, public statements about nuclear weapons, and some of it are saying that if the war will happen, it will be a thermonuclear, and some of them will fly not just on Ukraine but also on Washington. So do you think this is somewhat related to the psychological steps of conflict that people go through when they're involved in the war? I think they're just, in this case, they're trying to somehow explain their defeat that's happening. And they know, Russian commanders know, that both American and British weapons are capable of changing the situation on the war front. And then I guess in Russia they could turn to Minister of Foreign Affairs and start asking questions: how, why are they doing it? Why are they supplying weapons? So translating his statement is pretty much, we have no control over America and Britain supplying our enemies with weapons, but we are really mighty pissed about it. And that's the summary of Lavrov's position. And Russia is, again, on a horse of idiocies when they're threatening the world with a third nuclear war, with a third world war, or possibly nuclear, for a weapon set that shoots, 70 miles radius? That's just inadequacy, or lunacy, whatever you want to call it.
Мы скажем сейчас что-нибудь страшное, потому что это единственное, что нам остается. Это риторика.
So these discussions about, on the Russian side, about using or not using HIMARS to attack Russian troops 300 miles deeper, this is just a distraction. Right now they already have lost the tactical and strategic levels. And now when they see more resupply coming in, when they see howitzers, they just will never be able to develop their operative success. And it is a very serious problem for Russia. This is a conceptual shift of the whole military position, negotiation position, political position, because they will not be capable of achieving any significant military goal with us having that equipment. And then we'll see later. Alright, we have 370,000 people watching us live. I am call upon everybody. Subscribe to Feygin Live, subscribe to Olexiy Arestovych, and subscribe to the Privateer Station. Please do not forget to click the like button. That helps to bring this video to the eyes of many more people. Share it with those whom you think should see it. Tomorrow we likely will have 3 casts on Mark's channel.
Так, ну что же, 370 тысяч человек нас смотрит. Я снова призываю
We will meet with Olexiy at 9 p.m. tomorrow, and there may be a little surprise right after that.
Вот, Алексей Арестович, канал его перевалил эту цифру, ну подписывайтесь и там, по ссылке его имени.
Cannot announce it yet, but we'll do our best to make sure that things work out. And
3 эфира, мой будет заключительным. Эфир свои и чужие, это будет монострим, понятно почему.
Tomorrow we'll get another show at 9 p.m. done.
Такой сюрприз. Вот, не могу анонсировать заранее.
And talk to all you guys later. See you tomorrow.